Namaste yogis, I'm Andrea and this is Hayley, and we're going to be doing a class themed on animals. It's a yin style class, so if you'd like to have a bolster and maybe a brick, a block or a cushion for this class, that would be great. Enjoy. Okay, so come to lie on your back. We're going to start in butterfly. So bring the soles of the feet together and open the knees out to the side. And I'd like you to take your arms overhead with your elbows, your shoulders and your wrists relaxed. And just allow your eyes gently to close here. Think about how the butterfly is opening up its wings. It's a really open position to begin with. It's a symmetrical position to begin our class today. And just focus now on being still, coming into the breath and relaxing as much as possible through the movements that we're going to take. So this class is inspired by animals, by animal positions. So much of our yoga asana is inspired by nature and inspired by the animals. So I've been putting together these little classes to help us connect with nature, to help us connect a little more to the animal beings that we share this planet with, and to get us to also appreciate that when we are holding things, when we are holding the shapes, being still in the shapes, the idea is that we are trying to think about the quality that the shape and the name of the pose is trying to show us. So butterflies have the ability to transform. They move about and then they become still. They can be very graceful within their movements. So as you lie down in this first shape, I would like you to consider this beautiful opening of your wings, this opening of the space of your front body. Be mindful of how that might make you feel a little vulnerable. So if that is what you're feeling right now, you can always just close the hands and rest them on the dantian area, onto the navel area. And that can be very calming and very settling. So, if anything in any class doesn't feel right, please make sure that you come out of the pose or take part of the modification that's being suggested. So just a few more simple breaths in this shape. Now bring the arms down slowly to your side and let your hands move to the outer sides of your legs to draw your legs together. So closing the wings for a little bit, good. And then roll to the right side, nice and carefully, and ease yourself up to sit. And then take your knees as wide, facing this way, take your knees as wide on the mat as you can. And we're going to come into frog pose, so you're kneeling in the frog. So take your knees really wide. And lower your forearms to the floor. So lift your hips up and flex your feet so that you can turn onto onto the inside of your insteps. You could, if you feel that this is too much to be on your forearms, just try this. Take a bolster underneath your arms. So you're trying to lengthen your spine. That's it, good. Take a nice deep full breath in. Slightly lengthen your tailbone. And then just gently relax into the fronts of the legs. Now if you wanted to here, you could move the bolster a bit further away. You're a little bit lower, and then you can take your elbows out to the side and rest your forehead on it. That's it. Good. So the frog. Nice movement again, symmetrical in the shape of the legs. Challenging pose for a lot of us. So thinking about the shape in your body, if you find that you struggle in your inner knees, You can always fold up your mat to give you a little bit more support for each knee. And the same would apply if you were struggling in your ankles, as it works into the joints. Think about the breath and smooth the breath out here, breathing in and breathing out. And relax and observe any tension that might be occurring in the inner groins. Again, if you want to imagine the frog as an animal, as a creature of nature, think about the movement of how the frog can move from place to place through the action of its legs. So breathing in and breathing out and surrendering into this shape. Keep trying to draw the tailbone just a little underneath you and drawing the hips back just a little more. And that will challenge the edge of the pose. And in yin, what we mean when we say moving to the edge is that area in the shape that sometimes you may think is suitable to maintain, and then other times it's much more appropriate for you to back off from. So just feeling that for yourself and what happens there when you slightly adjust and slightly move, and the edges change according to where you are in the practice and according to the time that you're staying in the pose. So can we appreciate the quality and the element of the frog? A lot of my students probably don't enjoy the frog as much as some of the other shapes that they do in yin. So just trying to see where we may favour certain creatures, certain animals. Can we see them all the same? And this is a very profound yogic teaching, which is about the idea of the wise yogi is able to see every single creature, different people from different parts of society, all the same, and allow themselves to behave to those creatures and those other humans in society exactly the same. And this is a teaching actually from the Bhagavad Gita, the text of India. So as we breathe in now, if you're using a support such as a bolster, push back up onto your hands, and very slowly you're going to bring your heels a little bit closer together. That's it, so you can bring your hands on the floor, good. Draw your knees closer together and just rest for a moment so that you can sit back on your heels, and just notice how that feels when you come out of that frog pose. Did you enjoy being a frog? Okay, so from there, we're going to keep the bolster as it is. Take the legs wide for dragonfly, so like a straddle position. Great. So bring the bolster in between the legs as you feel that you would need to, and then gently fold forward over the legs. So moving into this third shape of the dragonfly. If you've ever studied and ever seen a dragonfly in really close proximity, you can just see in these, these small insects, these small creatures, the beautiful aspect of their wings, the aspect of the body. We don't often study some of these creatures in detail enough. And of course, in yin yoga and the teachings in Chinese medicine and Taoism, they're looking at nature all of the time. So the Chinese yogis in the same way as the Indian yogis. They're looking at the qualities, trying to imitate the qualities of nature, of the animals. It implies a two-way relationship, that we can learn from these creatures as much as these creatures can learn from us. So dragonfly pose again can often bring up the tissues of the legs where it can feel tight and resistant. So try to just relax the muscles around the inner groins, around the adductor area. This actually, in the meridian system, actually affects the kidney, the stomach, and the liver meridians. And these meridians and these links to the organs are how in yin and Chinese medicine we say that it links to certain emotions that are very positive emotions, and how we can reduce the more negative emotions that we may struggle from. So this is a main liver pose that we often put in the liver series, and the liver relates to us having anger and irritation and being annoyed and not feeling that we can move forward because we feel stuck. And when we think about these little creatures like the dragonflies, again, it's like the butterfly. They can move. They can move in, they can be still, and then they can move on. So how are we able to do that? How are we able to move forward without anger? And when we are able to do this, it is said that we develop a more compassionate way of being. Our nature changes and we become more tolerant, possibly, of the other beings in our life and our situation. So let's inhale ourselves up, nice and smoothly, good. And then move the bolster to one side, gently close the legs, never rush out of any of these shapes, really take your time and come and lie on your abdomen. That's it. And we're going to take the seal. So you're going to come all the way up onto your elbows first of all, and then try and straighten your arms there, Hayley, as much as you can. So you're lifting up, good. You could take your legs a little wider if you want to, and again, possibly sometimes turning out the angle of the legs, which affects the meridians in the inside of the legs. You could turn the palms outwards so that the thumb is pointing forward, and you start to investigate the energy and the chi that's moving into the arms. So in yin, this is called the seal. And, well, this is in because seals are one of my favorite animals. I don't know anybody that really doesn't love seals. And the beauty of these creatures, and when you see the images of these creatures and you see the pictures, the wonderful faces. So thinking about, because it's a bat bend, of really opening the heart center, opening across the chest, and sensing the compassion that we develop from understanding these creatures and their situation a little more. Are you able to appreciate why this is called the seal? Thinking even of the sounds that the animal makes. And do you have and can you develop a relationship to that creature? So many of us, when we watch these wonderful programs that we see often on the television, where these programs are linked to nature and linked to animals, we can always learn so much, things that we never knew about these creatures. And maybe you could say that part of the yogic practice is about our ability to see ourselves in another creature. See ourselves in another human, but possibly to also see ourselves in an animal. And then when we see some terrible images of how some of these animals are hunted, some of how these animals are treated, and ultimately, what can cause their death. Do we think that that has a kind of karmic way of being able to see how our actions and what we do can contribute to that. So the idea is that when we begin to find an affinity to the creatures, to the animals, we would never want to harm them, we would never want to hurt them, and we would do all we could to protect their environment, their world, their homes, in the same way that we would want that for others. So the yogis in these times, times when yoga was starting, they looked at what was around them. They looked at nature as the world. And often, as yogis now in a more Western world, we can feel very separate from nature, from the animals. Let us get a little bit more harmonious with what we see around us. This is all part of yin. It's all part of being steady and receptive to everything that happens in our life. So just a few more breaths in this seal pose, really thinking about the creature, this beautiful being. And then you can gently come back to your elbows and then lower all the way down. Turn your cheek to one side and rest your arms down by the sides of your legs. Really just drop that away. Let that go. And take some deep full breaths here. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders now and draw the navel in, so you're really feeling kind of quite strong in the position. Tuck your toes under and push up into a plank pose. Good. And we're going to come into what we call crocodile in yin here. So all you're going to do, Hayley, is you're going to bend your arms and come into Chaturanga Dandasana, and then inhale, push back up again. Good. And do that 5 times if you can. So this is crocodile in yin. Inhale. Try not to snap while you're doing it. Exhale for 3. Good. Inhale, lift up. Exhale for 4. Draw your navel in. Good. Inhale, lift up. And then one more. Exhale, 5. Good. Inhale, lift up. Lower your knees down. Well done. And then push your seat back to your heels. Did we like that one? Bring your knees a little bit further forward on your mat and stand on your knees. So, deliberately picking another animal now after we've kind of moved from the seal. You could tuck your toes under here if you wanted to. We're going to move into camel, which is a challenging pose for anybody in any class, let alone in a yin class. So if you find that this is too strong to stay in, please come out earlier. You could take your toes flat if you felt that you wanted to. So there's 2 options there. Take your hands towards your back. Point your fingertips downwards, and then inhale, squeeze your elbows together, open your chest, and exhale, arch back. Place your hands onto the tops of the feet. Good. So the idea is that the pose is imitated by the camel's hump. So you want to try and draw the hips forward, and then if your head feels okay, you can release your head back. Good. So the timings have started. So I'm going to let you know when you've done a minute. And we're going to try to aim to stay for 2 minutes. So just see what that feels like for you after a minute. If you need to come out before, you can just take a few breaths and then come back out of the pose. So do we have the same affinity with the camel as we did with the seal? Often, you know, the image that we might get of the camel is that they spit a lot. So we might not have the same love, the same compassion for them. So the idea is to see each animal the same. The camel is doing its thing. Maybe it can be a little grumpy, but then so can we. So this is 1 minute now. If you've held it for 1 minute and you want to come up, you inhale to lift up onto your knees, and then you just rest sitting back on your heels. If you decided that you're going to stay for a little longer, keep the breath going. Try to keep the focus. Think about the creature. Think about the hump of the camel, the arc in the back. Again, it's a deep back bend. Notice the edge in the pose, whether or not you feel that you want to come out. Notice the neck. You could always bring the head forward if that feels appropriate to you. Just a little while longer. Smooth breath in, smooth breath out. Certainly don't stay here if you feel too much compression in your back. It's an emotional pose, so you might feel some emotions that are coming up. So find the breath. You can bring up a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. And then let's take the hands to the back now, and on an inhale, lift yourself up, eyes open, really lengthen your spine. And then if your toes are tucked, point your toes back, just sit back onto your heels here and just breathe. So try to lengthen the spine. Don't immediately feel that you need to come forward. Just lengthen the spine, breathe in, breathe out. Good. Feel that beautiful affinity with the camel. And then we're going to swing the legs back around in front. Good. And we're going to come into caterpillar, and you're going to fold forward over the tops of your legs here. So what I'm going to ask Hayley to do here is try a variation where she actually takes the bolster under her knees. So we're going to put it underneath. That's it. And this will kind of lessen the pressure completely through her legs so that she can just fold forward into this caterpillar position. So finding the breath, again, smoothing everything out from the previous two poses, which were back bends. Thinking about the relationship here to this next animal, and this next shape, what the caterpillar does, how it moves. Smooth breath in, smooth breath out. Letting go of anything that is stopping you recognizing the present moment of the breath. Observing to yourself when you have these shapes, and particularly with this theme, it's quite an unusual theme, I think, to choose for a yin class, but the idea of how certain shapes we like more than others, and how that can affect the mind and emotionally what that brings up for us. So seeing everything the same, being more even-minded. This is one of the aspects of yoga. This is one of the aspects of the Tao, this idea of using what is in front of you and learning from it. So let's inhale and slowly come out of that caterpillar. And then from there, all you're going to do is you're going to lie back on your back. So come to lie on your back completely. We're going to go back into that butterfly. But what we're going to do here is bring the feet together, but let the knees, keep them on the floor. Let the knees just open out. Good. And rest your hands on your abdomen. Let your body settle. Let your body rest. Let your body come back into this shape of the butterfly. And feel how the practice may have opened the wings, your wings. This opening quality that the pose can show us is also about how we look at how our mind can be closed to certain aspects of life. How can what we do as a human being affect the rest of the world, affect the planet? Think about when you go to yoga and you go to your classes, why the teachers are talking about doing positions, moving into positions that are named after these creatures, that are named after the mountains, after the birds, after the trees. They're to try to show us the affinity that we have to all of life and all existence. When we learn from that, we can really see the yoga outside of this class and what is happening on this mat. So settling the breath, connecting to the shape, and thinking about the quality of this butterfly. Choosing something that resonates with you. So there are many shapes, there are many poses, there are many animals that are placed in the yoga system that we can learn from. You might want to do a little bit of research after taking this class and see how many other poses and other animals that you don't know about you could research, you could take care of in some way. So let's inhale and bring our legs together. Place the feet on top of that bolster now and gently just roll over onto the left side there. Hug the knees in and just stay on the side of the body. And when you feel ready, ease yourself up. Come and find a seat, somewhere that feels comfortable. You can put a prop underneath if you wish to. And as you close your eyes and you just settle into stillness, just bring one animal to mind that you would really like to take care of, that you would like to learn more about. And every time you take this class, you could choose a different animal to learn from. Bring the hands to the heart, bow the head to the hands, and seal in the qualities of these animals. Seal in the qualities of nature to make the yoga practice something that is vast for you, something that you can take from the mat and out into the world. Namaste.